to go on an excursion tomorrow," Bertie's driver told him as he put him in the garage one night. Bertie was excited. He liked running excursions. Usually he was kept busy running passengers to the railway stations for Thomas and the other engines. An excursion run would make a nice change. "Are they going to the seaside?" "No," said his driver. "It's a naturalist society. They want to go up to the hills to watch birds and look for rare plants, so make sure you're in good form for climbing." But when Bertie woke the next morning, he didn't feel on good form for anything. The mechanics tried to make him feel better, but it was no good. His friend Algae had to go instead. Algae went to the place where the naturalists were waiting. They all carried picnic baskets and had binoculars hanging round their necks. They climbed aboard Algae, and with a toot, he set off for the hills. They had only gone a few miles when they had to wait at some traffic lights. Algae's engine stopped and wouldn't start again. The driver tried and tried, but he couldn't make Algae go. "Bother," thought Algae. "I don't want to let the passengers down." But the passengers didn't mind. They laughed and offered to help start Algae's engine again by pushing him. At last, Algae started again. They drove on carefully, the driver never letting Algae's engine run slowly. And at last, they reached their final destination. The naturalists all got out and went for a walk whilst Algae's driver tried to fix him. But when the naturalists returned an hour later, Algae's driver had bad news. "I'm sorry to spoil your day, but I haven't managed to mend Algae yet. I've telephoned the garage, but Bertie still isn't better, and there's no other buses available." The naturalists felt sorry for Algae. "Why don't you have your picnic now?" the driver suggested. "If I haven't made Algae start by the time you're finished, we'll get you home some other way." So the naturalists had their picnic, but it was no use. Poor Algae felt sad. "I'm very sorry about this," he told the naturalists solemnly. "Never mind, Algae," they said cheerfully. "We'll come back when you're feeling better again." Algae's driver went to the telephone, but while he was gone, Algae and the naturalists heard a faint toot toot in the distance. Algae grinned with delight. "I know that toot. That's Bertie, that is." Sure enough, a moment later, Bertie swung round the corner and pulled into the car park. "Hop in," he called happily as he stopped beside them. "You won't have a wasted day after all." And thanks to Bertie the bus, they didn't.
A cold, wintry wind blew down Oliver's funnel as he rushed to the harbour with Toad. "Brrr," said his driver. "It looks as if a storm is blowing over from mainland." Oliver didn't like storms. The wind reminded him of a lonely night he spent once in a shed waiting to be scrapped. But that was a long time ago, and he was saved by his friends. So he put the thought right out of his mind and hurried on to the harbour with his load. "Hello, Oliver," beeped Percy as he fought against the wind. "Do you need some help?" called Oliver. "Yes," said Percy. It was so gusty that Percy's post train had been delayed. There were letters everywhere, and they had blown right out of the trucks. Luckily, Oliver had some rope, so together the drivers secured the post sacks to Percy's trucks. Percy was all ready to go when a big rumble, louder than Gordon rushing through a tunnel, thundered all around them. Percy closed his eyes tight. "What is it?" shuddered Oliver. "It's thunder," his driver replied. "No need to worry." But even the driver jumped when jagged lightning flashed across the sky. When Percy and Oliver opened their eyes again, they were in complete darkness. The lights in the harbour yard had all gone out. "Cinders and ashes!" squealed Percy. "Where am I?" "You're in the same place as before, but you can't see, that's all," said Oliver kindly. The harbour master telephoned the Fat Controller to find out what to do. When he returned to the yard, he had important instructions for Oliver and Percy. "There has been a power cut on the island," he said. "We need your help." "Yes," said Percy and Oliver bravely. The harbour master continued, "You must deliver candles to every station so that the passengers can find their way around the railway and so we can stay open." Percy and Oliver soon set off with their unusual load. Oliver took the coastline and Percy headed inland. Percy made good time, but he had to stop to level crossing. There he met Bertie the bus, taking an engineer to the electricity cable that had been damaged in the storm. When Percy arrived at Wellsworth, it was very busy. Railway lamps hung outside the station to light the way, and some of Percy's candles were unloaded to light the waiting room. Percy thought the flickering flames looked very cosy. He was sorry to leave, but knew there was more to do. Meanwhile, Oliver passed the airfield and was surprised to see Harold the helicopter flying in the storm. "I'm on an important mission," said Harold boldly. Oliver watched Harold lift a broken tree branch off the power cable and into the air. Then Bertie arrived with the engineer, and he climbed up to the cable with his toolkit. The cable was soon mended, and all around lights came back on. Everything was bright again. Oliver heard the happy sound of people cheering in the distance. Later that night, outside the shed, the Fat Controller thanked Oliver, Percy, Bertie and Harold for being so brave.
"You have all been really useful, and I am very proud of you all. By pulling together, we have saved the island from a very dark night,"
He said proudly.